Every day there is a forgetting, and every moment there is the possibility of remembering. Remembering who you truly are, awakening to your body, to the inner world and experience of being alive. Here is where you find the beauty, the joy. Here is where you free your soma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Free Your Soma, Stories of Somatic Awakening and How to Live from the Inside Out. Today, I have Viviana Aiello with me. She is a self-love activator. She helps strong, successful women who may be overworked and overwhelmed rebalance their feminine and masculine energies. She is here to break the chains of who you think you should be and embrace your authentic self by igniting your self-love. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm so excited to talk to you today about all of this juicy stuff.
Thank you, Amy. I'm excited to be here with you. Thanks for inviting me from our little coffee date. Here we are.
Yes. Well, we were talking about such great things on the coffee date. I was like, we got to share these conversations. We got to share what you're up to and what you've been doing, because it's so in alignment with the things that I believe are healing and powerful, that have been healing and powerful for me on my journey. And so I'm super excited to dive deeper into that, especially about the rebalancing of your masculine and feminine energies, because I think that is something that people are starting to realize is really, really needed, you know? And one way that is expressed is that people are overworked. Like you said, they're not resting enough. Mm-hmm. And the resting is actually where a lot of the changes and the deeper transformations in our life take place, is when we're resting, actually, not when we're in action.
Absolutely.
Would you say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's very easy to be in your masculine energy because we're busy, we're moms, we have jobs, we have kids. Life itself, just the energy of the earth itself is creation. And so moving that building or creating energy. So it's easy to be in your masculine energy. We do it constantly. And it's not that you don't want to be in your masculine. You want to just remember that as the feminine energy, we also need to build upon that energy as well. And so what does that mean? It's the receiving energy. It's the leaning back energy. It's the surrendering. It's just being in your body. And so, like I said, it's so easy to be in your masculine because we're busy. We want to be successful. We want to create magic. We're entrepreneurs. And so how then do you go back and integrate that feminine energy without completely losing yourself and being this monster strong, successful woman? And then what happens eventually, as you know, the work that you do, we get depleted, we get exhausted. It starts to tip over, then it starts infiltrating your relationship. And now you're two masculine energies, forcing something. So it's a mess. So how then do we go back and integrate that feminine energy? And that's when we use our tools, right? All of the healing tools that we know. So that's something that we could talk about today, is like how to do that. What are the tools that we could do? Absolutely.
I would love to share tools and because I have mine and you have yours, and I'd love to see how they intersect, and how they're kind of doing the same things, except maybe on like different ways or different energy levels, right?
Yeah. And I think everyone is on their own. Obviously, everyone's on their own journey and their own path. So my journey may not be like yours and vice versa. You may not use the same tools that I use. But I think if the intention is, I want to be my authentic self, I want to love myself. What does that even mean to start off with? What does it mean to love yourself? Because a lot of people will think that, well, loving yourself is going to get a manicure, self-love. Well, that's not necessarily what it is. You have to remember that there's three parts of you: mind, body, and spirit. And so when you're loving yourself, then you're pouring into those three parts of you, right? And that's where we come in. So you would come in with the body part, with loving the body, right? The somatic healing. And so there's different ways to heal and different tools to use, and they're all so fun.
Yes, yes. And as you were
And they
talking
come in
about
at different times,
they
right?
do. They come in at different times because we're ready for certain pieces to be certain things arise in us, things we were unconscious of come up, and they're ready to be, they're ready to be sorted through. They're ready to be recovered. They're ready to be healed, right? And that tool that wasn't resonant 3 months ago or 2 years ago suddenly becomes relevant because we're like, oh, now I'm in this place where it makes sense to do this. Now
Yes.
suddenly this is what I'm looking for.
It's what I'm looking for. And I know, like, when my journey first started, I was in a lot of pain. I was in the pain body. There was a lot of suffering. A lot was purging. I was purging during that time. And so I just remember thinking, I don't remember ever crying this much in my entire life, because I had put so many layers of protection over me. And when I let go and I just sat in that emotion, but very aware, it was a very conscious and aware healing journey. I let it pour out, and there was this purging. And so during that time, there was a lot of meditation. There was a lot of being still. So the healing back then was very different from what it is now. And so that's what I love to tell women is what works for me or work for me doesn't necessarily have to work for you. This is your own personal thing. Just get out, just be present and ask the universe, where am I? What do I need? And then listen. Be present and listen. And like you said earlier, it's in those quiet moments, it's in those slow moments is where all the healing happens. So it's very powerful. Our bodies, our minds, we're so intelligent. We're powerful. All the healing comes from within.
Absolutely. Yes. Self-healing is, in my opinion, it's really the only type of healing that actually exists, because even if, say, let's take like the most, I guess, like unlikely self-healing mechanism, like a prescribed medication, right? And the doctor gives you this pill and it has some influence on your body. Well, some people's bodies are going to deal with that medication correctly. But here, I just said it, their body is dealing with the medication. At the end of the day, the medication is doing something, but it's their body that's actually using the medication to do something. So even in the case of like, someone giving you medicine, or even someone giving you some kind of physical body treatment that's maybe forceful, like a deep tissue massage, your body has to allow that. It has to accept that. And your body's the thing that's ultimately making the changes, even if it's coming from an outside source, right? And so when we start to realize this, then we can actually redirect that self-healing in ways that feel like more authentic and resonant to our individual bodies. Because as you said, like, we're totally different. Everybody has a different nervous system configuration. And while we may have similarities, it's still going to be different. What feels good on my skin is going to be different than what feels good on somebody else's skin.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, in my journey, because I don't think it ever ends. I think you agree with me that our healing journey, and I like to call it a self-love journey. It's not so much a healing journey. It's more of an unraveling, like the unlayering the onion, the peels of the onion, and you keep just pulling them back until you get to that source, that light within you. And so in my unraveling journey, I find myself to be in the body healing at the moment, the self-love in the body, because I've done so much work with the mind and the spirit and connecting all of that and learning about my body, but there's some pieces that are missing. And so I love to tell my clients and friends that, look, your journey's never going to end. You're going to constantly be learning and going backwards and then forward. It's never just, there's no ending. Just like me, I can empower women and inspire women and ignite them, but there's things that I have to learn too. And so I think that's a big part of how you and I connected, because there's things that that you can teach me about that body healing, the actual somatic part, that I'm just like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have some awesome nuggets of gold. I mean, you already shared with me things that inspired me to want you on the podcast to share more. But, that's what's so wonderful about collaborating with other people, is that you can grow in these surprising and new ways, because someone else's journey is different than yours. If we had the same journey, like, we'd just be like an echo chamber, and we wouldn't learn anything. There would be it would kind of be a standstill. Wouldn't be that interesting. So I think that the differences that people have, that's what really makes things spicy and colorful and bright and,
Absolutely.
exciting in life, is our differences.
Absolutely. And I found that honestly, the intention, the consciousness, the intention, the desire, that's number one. That's where you start. If you don't want to heal or awaken, you're not going to. If you don't want, and I don't like to say be better, it's not about being better. It's just to get closer to the light within you. If you don't want to do that, you're not going to. And it really just, the journey is about the desire of, hey, I'm ready to be conscious about this area in my life. And then universe says, I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to meet you there. Let's work together. And so then universe will inspire you to learn more things, to get on a podcast, to meet with this person, a book, a video, something. It will magnetize all the answers to you. And that's really how I healed my anxiety years ago. It was all from within. There was nothing. I was ready to do it. I got on my knees. I asked. I was ready. I pushed the intention out, and then I allowed everything to kind of come to me, and that journey began. So it's very powerful. We are so powerful. We are the most powerful bitches ever.
Oh man, yeah. Well, maybe you can orient our listeners a little bit. You kind of talked about it a few moments here and there, but tell us how this all kind of started for you, like wherever you want to start in your timeline. Tell us a little bit about your path.
Absolutely. So I was, I'm Italian. Both of my parents are Italian. My mom was only 17 when she had me. My parents were together not because of love or true love, but because of convenience. And I really believe that things spiraled from there, because I unfortunately took on a lot of their traumas and it became my trauma. And so because of their connection there, you have kids, and now you have no idea what you're doing with these two kids. My mom's a teenager. She did her absolute best, but I had my father, which was very emotionally detached. He was not able to show love. On top of that, he shamed me. He body shamed me. And like, it's bringing up emotion still, because it's one of the things that I still get touched by. It's not a pain that like it used to be, but I still am touched by it, like a humbleness, like, wow, like I really went through these things as a little girl, and just loving that little girl that was Viviana. And she was so sweet and tender and beautiful, right? But I grew up not believing that I was. I grew up feeling and thinking that I was the ugliest creature that ever walked the planet. And so because of that belief, I think my weight got up to 268 pounds at one point. I didn't know who I was as a woman. I created all these barriers around me to protect myself. And so the weight kept going up. I felt very masculine, very aggressive. I was very intense and strong and fierce, because that is my personality. I am very fierce, but there was that other side of me that just didn't exist. It was the softness that I had no idea who she was. How could you be soft and tender and feminine and graceful when there's all of these protective layers around you? And so I grew up with that environment. The more words were thrown at me, the harsher I became, and so I then got married. I kind of followed my parents' footsteps, got married at the age of 20, super young, had no business getting married at that age. Again, married someone that was very similar to my father, which didn't know how to pull that feminine energy out of me. And so I became more masculine, more of the leader, more intense and strong. There's good and bad parts of that, obviously. And wasn't in love. I literally just followed my parents' footsteps. I didn't know who I was. I had no business getting married at such a young age. I thought it was the right thing to do. I wanted to be accepted by my family. I did the right thing in that Italian mindset where you're a good girl, you're a good woman, you get married. And so I did that and ended up getting a divorce in my 30s when I started to wake up, when I started to feel myself, when I started to really think, oh, I have this whole other side of me that's sexy, that's sensual, that is feminine, and that is desirable, right? Oh, I can actually be this woman and not just be a boss bitch, you know? And so that's kind of where the journey started, I would say, is when I decided to get a divorce. During that time that I was married for 17 years, I had two amazing kids, but I also had severe anxiety. It was excruciating. I was in and out of the hospital constantly. And that's really the time that spiritually I started to awaken, because I realized that, oh, I have the power to heal and it's all within me. And from there, I left my marriage and fell in love for the very first time with a soulmate, with my best friend. That soulmate connection ended because of circumstances, but it woke me up to my real awakening, because it forced me to say, you are this whole woman, and there's power in that. And I started to pour back into myself, because during that time, there was no healing that could have been done on the outside of me. Nobody could have healed me. Nobody could have fixed me. Nobody could have said anything. I had to just be. And the way I see it is, I was like the caterpillar in the cocoon. I had to just be in that cocoon and feel all of the emotions. And the same way that caterpillar gets liquefied over and over and over until it becomes a butterfly. That's how I felt for 2 years. Me in a cocoon, becoming liquefied until I could blossom. And when I blossomed, girl, I came out like, wow, you're this beautiful creature, and loving myself, mind, body, and spirit, and finally connecting that there's these 3 parts of me that need to be nourished. Number one, first, before anyone and anything, it's me. It's my body, my mind, my soul. Then everyone else. And tell me if I'm wrong. We don't do that.
We're not trained. We're not trained to do that. We're trained, especially as females, but I think males go through this too. You know, we're trained to focus on the external and to focus on what other people want from us and what we can do for other people, what our bodies can do for other people. And for women, that's obviously like, you know, motherhood and service. But for men, I think it also becomes like, what can I physically do for you? What can I lift? What can I haul around? How can I make money? Right. Yeah. So these ways that we focus on the external and we don't recognize, like, how am I nourishing myself, you know, and not just eating food and like going through the motions, but how am I really feeding my soul?
Absolutely.
Right? And that's, I think, what you're really speaking to here. And that's what heals ultimately, is when we start feeding our soul, you know. And I wanted to say something about what you said before, you know, and we talked about this a little bit in our coffee date, but there was an element here of being raised under Catholicism as well, and specifically Italian Catholicism.
Yep.
Right. And that was something that, you know, probably also pushed you towards marriage at the age of 20, I would assume.
Yes.
Right? And there was a whole kind of paradigm of, and maybe you can say more about this, a paradigm of like what it means to be a Catholic Italian woman, right? Yes. And as you started to break out of that, I mean, obviously a Catholic Italian woman doesn't get divorced.
Oh, girlfriend, that's a whole other podcast.
Right.
We can have a whole other podcast on my Italian divorce, because that's a whole other story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you don't have to get all into that, but that would be a fun one. But
absolutely.
But like, just maybe say a little bit about, because now you've changed the way that you experience your spirituality. And what I get from that is, it was that time in incubation. It was that time where the other, you know, the tools that had been imposed on you by your culture and your family, they weren't sorting this out for you. And so you had to discover internally on your own what was actually going to work for you. You developed an internal felt experience of your spirituality at that time. That's what I'm getting. Is that true?
Absolutely. I felt it from the core, from inside out. I experienced connecting to the universe, to source through my body. It was like electricity. When I was able to experience those things, it just opened up the floodgates, because I realized that, oh my goodness, I'm not that little girl that is shamed and overweight and that is, reckless and irresponsible and a horrible Italian girl because she wants a divorce. I'm not that woman that has to be the leader and controlling everyone and everything. And so all of those things became a lie. It was just who I thought that I was. But when you connect to that soul part of you, and you realize, oh my goodness, I am a soul, I'm light. Then from that place, you can start to love yourself. And so I activated myself. And so now I call myself a self-love activator, right? And so absolutely, I felt all of the beautiful things about being this magical creature that we all are. And realized, like we said in the beginning, I don't have to be what society says that I have to be. I don't have to be what the Catholics or the Christians say that I have to be. I don't have to be what my Italian parents or communities say that I should be. It happens till this day, Amy. I still have pushback from society and from family and people that are supposed to see me and know me, and they can't. And that's my journey is no, I see me. I love me. I feel that I am completely in alignment with my joy and with my heart and with my heart's desires. I am in alignment with what lights me the fuck up, right? I feel it from inside of my body. I feel the fire. And when I'm in that place, nobody can say anything else. Nobody can tell me that you're doing the wrong thing. Yeah. But not gonna lie, there are times that I get triggered, and those are the times that I work with other healers. I work with people like you, or right now I'm working with the shaman, because that little trigger means it's in my body still. It's still in my subconscious. It's still part of a belief or a trauma that I have. And so I've got to put the light on it. I've got to flash the light on it. I've got to, okay, what is this thing? And why does it keep triggering me? So.
Yeah. And, the really amazing thing about this process is that even when people are that, like, all that pushback, right? All that noise, all those lies of like what you should be and what people are telling you are, it actually strengthens what you actually are, because you can see very clearly what you are not, And so in a way, like these people, these voices, our family, I had a relationship in my early 20s that did this for me very well, because I had a boyfriend that I didn't realize at the time that he was an alcoholic, and he would, get drunk and kind of spill all this like vitriol onto me of like what I was doing, how I was being, and they were all of his projections. And the entire time I'm sitting there just on the receiving end of, kind of some of this abuse. And I'm realizing like, there's a little part of me like starting to internalize it, starting to do the thing that we do in childhood where we go, oh, that must be who I am. I must be this terrible person because this is what I'm hearing from someone, right? But then there was another part of me that just started rising up internally and going, no, that is not true. that my beingness arose and said, this information that's coming in, that's defining me, is completely inaccurate. And it strengthened that in me. I got stronger. My internal resolve of knowing who I really was got stronger from that noise externally. So we think of that stuff as, like, oh, we just want to receive affirmation. And believe me, there's a blessing to getting affirmation from someone really seeing you, right? And seeing you and going, this is who you are. And you go, yes, oh my God, I feel seen. Yes. That's wonderful. But in that other way around, it's kind of like a twisted gift of not being seen allows us to see ourselves, right?
Yes, absolutely. It is powerful. And it's one of the most favorite things that I love to do, is to remind women that they are whoever the fuck they say they are, period. If you want to paint, a rainbow around a unicorn and sell that as your art, then by all means do it. That's who you are. That's what you want to do. If you want to be whatever it is that you feel within yourself, then chase that desire, because that's why we're here. We're here to become visionaries. We're here to love ourselves, to see ourselves, like you're saying. But there's all that noise, to your point, the parents, the family, the beliefs, the society, our culture, so much noise that blocks us, and it'll keep triggering over and over again until you really heal that, right? Until you really heal that pain or that trauma, it'll keep coming up. And that's our job, is to just clear and unlayer the onion.
Yeah. Well, and you know what you said before, I love this analogy of the cocoon, and of no, you said nobody could touch you, nobody could help you, right? And what I see is just this: your body literally was at capacity. What you were holding, the information that had already been gathered, the sensory information, the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, the history of your life, you were full up. There was like no more room for anything else to come in. Even if it was helpful, even if it was like the most fucking helpful thing ever, it didn't matter, because what you really needed was to incubate and to actually sort through and process what was already happening, what had already happened. And you weren't open to that new input. And that's sensible. That's actually really intelligent for our bodies to do that. That's what happens in some ways. And this is like kind of like a parallel analogy. When we burn out, when we do too much and we overdo it, and we overdo it too many days in a row, lack of sleep, too much caffeine, not eating well, dehydrated, not exercising, all the things that we're overloaded. Our physical system is at capacity. And that's why we burn out. We're just like, nope, no more. No, not taking any more in right now. I got plenty to sort through. I got some healing, and I mean healing in terms of like regeneration. I've got some regenerating to do. I've got some house cleaning to do, and so now I'm going to shut down and be in the bed for 12 hours.
Right.
That's what burnout
is the feminine energy, regeneration. That's the feminine energy. And, I just saw it like, I had this glass and it was full and it was just pouring over and pouring over. And I needed to just stay and be present and feel and purge and purge and purge until I got to a point to where I then had I think I had regenerated enough to where I can now balance out my masculine energy again, right? Because that was just very much, the darkness is feminine energy. That it's like the incubator, that's feminine energy. It's when everything is happening and creating, but there's no force, there's no creation yet. There's nothing that has been created. It's not pushed out. The baby or whatever it is hasn't been born, right? That's the masculine energy. And so when I was in that incubation period, it was tough because I was getting liquefied and I wanted to fight out of it. I wanted to get out of it and I just could not. And I finally surrendered. And I allowed it to do what it needed to do. And I trusted the intelligence of my body. I trusted universe. I flowed with it, and boom, Love's Gravity was born, right? And then Love's Gravity is born. And now I'm able to then give that medicine back to other women and to other people and men as well, because I allowed myself and trusted myself and loved myself that much to say, we're doing this. Okay, universe, you need to liquefy the shit out of me until there's nothing left and then rebuild from there. Isn't that nature? Isn't it nature? It's nature. It's even, the forests, they have to burn down in order to rebuild. It's just part of nature, but we don't allow that. Because we're afraid. We're afraid of the silence. We're afraid of the darkness. We're afraid of
the death, right? In a way, you had a death of who you were before. You had a death of
multiple deaths. And we if you're not integrating the darkness into the light, then you're never going to be whole. That's the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang is allowing the darkness to also be part of the light. It goes hand in hand. It's not just all light. It's not possible, not on this earth, at least, not on earth. In this experience, there's the balance. You're going to experience the darker, the contrast, and the light. They go together. It's all the same thing.
That's the only way to have clear vision. That's the only way to see an object or even paint or draw an object, is you have to give it 3 dimensions at least, right? By creating that shadow, by creating the dark spaces around the object. That's how you see something. I mean, Beautiful. This is so, we think of these things as being so conceptual, and like a lot of people will call it, when we're talking this way, like woo woo or something. It's like, no, this is very, very fucking literal.
Absolutely. There's nothing woo woo about this.
Yeah, it's actually very literal. Like we can compare this to, like for example, and let's get into it because I want to have you talk about the masculine and the feminine energies and the way that we can start rebalancing them. But the way that my somatic mentor, when I was in my training, she talked about these things in an interesting way, talking about the right and left hemispheres of our brain and how they in many ways represent what we call masculine and feminine energy, because this is kind of general because there's obviously a lot of variation in the way that people's biochemistry and the way that people's brains are set up. But when they've done long extensive studies on the right and left hemispheres, the left side of our brain, which controls the right side of our body, this is where analyzing, planning, and things like identity, this is where we experience timelines, where we have ordering, we can order everything up, right? The other side of our brain, which controls the right side of our body, this is imagination, creativity. This is also the side of our brain that doesn't see a difference between us and everyone else. It's more of a collective consciousness that exists on that side of our brain. And we also don't have ordering. We don't have time. Everything's now. And so when you're in the now, like, you don't know when this experience, whether it's positive or negative, is going to end. It's just all now. And so you can hear that in language. Like when I hear myself speaking to my husband, or I'm upset about something and I hear myself say things like always and never. Like, oh, I must be in that side of my brain where this problem has always existed and it will never end because it's so now. I'm not in that analysis or rational part of my brain where I can see like, oh, this has happened, but it will also end, right? And so when I think about integration of feminine and masculine energy, I think about integration of our brains. I think about being able to actually use both sides of our brain at the same time, rather than just being really dominant on one side. So I
absolutely.
just kind of loved like kind of bringing that in to illustrate the point of like what you're about to talk about, while we may be using these like big, poetic and beautiful spiritual terms, it's fucking literal. It's like
literal. It's scientific. It absolutely is. And it, you can see my face, like I have a huge smile. It lights me the fuck up. Like this talk about masculine and feminine is brilliant. The yin and the yang, but like you said, it could sound poetic, but it really isn't. It's natural, it's nature, it is scientific. Everything has both polarities. Everything has that. Everything in nature, a plant, a flower, this table, you and I, we all have the polarity, which is the masculine and feminine, or you can call it negative and positive, right? So you can call it either way, negative and positive, masculine and feminine. You can call it heart and mind. You could call it left and right hemisphere. There's so many different ways that you can describe that feminine and masculine energy and apply it to every single thing in your life. Because if, let's just take us, for example, we're women, we're mothers, we're married, we have, or I'm not married anymore, but let's just say we're in a relationship, we have jobs. How do you balance those two energies instead of being all in one area, which we tend to do? Like I said in the beginning, it's really super easy to be stuck in your masculine energy or the left hemisphere of your brain, which is very analytical. Why? Because that we have to get shit done. We have to get shit done. And then throw on all of the other factors that push you in that direction or keep you there, which is shame and duty, responsibility. What are they going to say? What are people going to say? I can't disappoint. At the end of the day, it's all of our beliefs that keep us out of that creative zone or that feminine energy. Because over here on this side, well, I wasn't raised to be free, to be expressive. I wasn't raised, or it's shameful, or boys don't cry, or, being creative doesn't make you money. That's what I was raised with, right? Okay, so you created this event, because I was an event planner for many years, a producer. The first thing that my family said was, well, you didn't make any money. So basically it was a fail. It was a failure. And I thought to myself, wow, that is not at all how I see it. I see it as I took a risk and I was expressive and I shared my gifts and I created this magical thing, this vision from nothing. And all you can see is that, well, it didn't make any money. So what side of the brain are they on? Like, obviously they're on the ego side. They're on the side of like, these are facts. And
means to an end.
Exactly, means to an end. And so, okay, but on the same token, can I always be on the other side of the brain where I'm creating flowers all day long and not getting any shit done? No, I can't do that either. We still have to do what we have to do. So this concept of the yin and the yang, of integrating the masculine and feminine energy, applies to everything. When you're in a relationship, if you're the feminine energy and you're all leading with your masculine energy, then there's two masculine energies just crashing. Where is the feminine part of you that is receiving and that is allowing, that is being tender and loving to herself, that is nurturing herself? Where is that part of you where you're refilling your cup, right? No, we just have to get shit done. We just have to fix everybody's problems. That was me for 17 years. I have to feed everyone. I have to take care of everybody's needs. I have to make sure you're okay and you're happy. There was no me. Where was Viviana? If I even thought about taking care of myself, the in-laws were right there to remind me that that was selfish.
Hello everyone, I'm Amy Takaya and I have an exciting announcement. At the end of September, I will be hosting my first full-length retreat. Somatic Awakening will take place in the San Gabriel Mountains. This 3-day transformational experience will include Hana Somatic Movement, hands-on somatic bodywork by my father William Davis, my cousins Seiji Oshenza, and myself. We will also explore somatic yoga and mudra practice, as well as an end-of-the-day sound healing to deepen your calm and release. Only 9 spaces are available for full-time participants. Day passes will be available for the Saturday activities. Right now, you can get $200 off the full price of the retreat. So, if you're feeling called into freedom and ease of movement, a peaceful, relaxed nervous system, delicious plant-based meals, and a fresh and enlivened way of being, go to freeyoursoma.com and hold your space. Payment plans are available by request, and feel free to reach out to me with questions or comments at freeyoursoma@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening and supporting this self-healing revolution.
The kids are right there crying and with their whole drama. So then of course what happens? I lose myself. We lose ourselves.
Yes.
Instead of being that woman that says, no, me first, my soul first, my body first, my mind first. I feed myself. I love myself. I just be present. And then from that place, I can give. And then from that place, I know what my boundaries are and I know where to stop. Most of my clients don't know where to stop and they feel guilty. They feel guilty for spending any money, any time, any resources, anything at all on themselves.
Yeah, that's a really painful place to be, because then you need that from other people. There's like an intense need and a dependency that comes along with that. When you're not giving that to yourself, then that's where I feel like a lot of, maybe other women can relate to feeling resentful, resentful of your partner, resentful of your kids, maybe even resentful of like your friends when they don't show up in the way that you need them to, right? Because you're not giving this to yourself, then that intense need from the outside for other people to make you feel a certain way, to give you love, to provide that nurture, that care, to get you that perfect gift for your birthday or whatever it is. And so then when other people fall short of that, which, they will likely to do.
They will. Nobody can fill you up the way that you can yourself.
Exactly.
That's literally part of my meditation. When I do the Rising Goddess experience, there's a meditation, there's the reading, there's the session, everything. that's the first thing that I say is we are here to fill our own cup. You are here to fill your own cup, because nobody and nothing can do that for you the way that you can. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't get help and have other healers. That doesn't mean that. But first you fill your own cup, and then you can get the little cherry on top with friendships or relationships or other things. That's just the way that a balanced, whole, harmonious person functions. First you, then everyone else, or
Right.
expecting anything from anyone else.
And that, I think that once we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but that's a point like on this like timeline or this journey, right? That isn't really linear, but let's just say for the sake of the moment that it is. It's a point on this path that you arrive at, and that's when certain things open up to you. For example, in the body work that I do, in the somatic work that I do, this is entirely self-led, meaning whoever I'm working with, they are leading and I am actually following them. Even though I have the tools and I'm moving them, I'm facilitating, they are ultimately the ones that's going to decide the intensity of the experience, and their body is only going to release what it's ready to.
Right.
And so there's a lot of kind of facilitating and listening that comes on my end. And ultimately the person that I'm working with is the leader, leading themselves. And this doesn't resonate with everybody because some people are still in the paradigm of like, I want you to do it for me. I want you to change me. I want you to fix me. I want you to heal me. And that is going to work better if they go get a manual massage. You know what I mean? Where they're just passively laying there and somebody's doing stuff to them. That's going to work better for that person. They're going to get more relief from that. And it's going to be a little bit confrontational sometimes to work with me because I'm going to keep inviting them to lead themselves.
Yeah. Because when you're not there or the masseuse isn't there, then what?
Exactly.
Now what do you do? So you're training them how to do it for themselves so that when they are in a place of needing to heal or whatnot. Oh, I remember I have this automatic thing now, this automatic healing modality that just happens naturally. That's the key. That's power right there.
That's exactly it. And that's
you can't come to me and get 10 readings a week. Like you can't do that. Yeah. I can light you up. I can initiate this. I can remind you, but you've got to remember that the healing comes from within you. Totally. Now, what are you going to do? Right?
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, I'm just speaking to like that point on the journey that not everybody's at, and there may be even within like being at that point, sometimes we dip back into like maybe that paradigm of dependency. We dip back into that mindset of lack where we think we need something from someone else. And that's okay. That's great. Go be passive and get a massage. go like feel into that and remember that feeling of powerlessness because it's going to lead you back to your power.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes. Leading you back to your power and the desire of wanting more harmony and balance in your own body. That's that's where I'm at. If I'm at a place of how do I heal my trauma or my beliefs so that naturally things will just happen, that I will naturally want to eat that better food or naturally not want to put that in my mouth or not exercise. I'll naturally want to exercise consistently. That's where I am in my healing. Because, as an Italian girl growing up, we ate 2 bowls of pasta and that was normal for us. So tell me now that that's not normal. Tell my body that. Or that's not healthy for me. And so I'm at that place because I can follow a program. I can get a trainer. And just like we're saying, I can get somebody that holds my hand. But what happens when you're not there?
Yeah.
What is that switch in my mind, in my cell? What is that activation in my body and in my brain that will just help me? So it's a natural thing that there's this natural intuition. That's the power.
I know. And that's sometimes, I love what you just said. How do we make it natural? How do we make it come from within and feel totally natural and authentic to make the decisions that feel most resonant to like our highest wisdom and power? And that is what I have a 6-month program that explores
Yeah, we
because
talked about that.
yeah, because this is something, and it's funny because when I actually try to sit down and like write about it, and I look at like, I don't know, other coaching pages where people talk about this stuff, it's like they tell you their method, their strategy. And I'm like, I can't tell you that totally, because you're going to come up with your own strategies. And that's what I'm helping you to do, is like, you're going to come up with the plan. You're going to come up with the methodology. Actually, I'm going to give you the tools and the access to your body in this very particular way that's going to allow this process to be natural and authentic to you on your timeline, not on my timeline, not in like this 6-month program. That's in a way just kind of this initiation of some lifelong skills that like you just haven't fully developed or haven't fully blossomed in you yet. Right. But it's like this ongoing exploration of what's authentic and real to you, because it changes from moment to moment.
It does.
It totally changes from what's happening in our environment, from what season it is, from what we're experiencing internally. It's changing all the time as our biochemistry is constantly changing. So to come up with a set of rules or a strategy that's just supposed to be it, and now you do this, Viviana, it's not fair to like who we really are.
Yeah, it's not fair, and it won't work. It might work temporarily, but it won't work. It hasn't set into the subconscious in the way that you know, it's like, what do you resonate with? What are you hearing? What are you ready to hear? When I was healing from anxiety, it was only because I was ready to hear it. And I asked. And then from that place, the magic happened, because I was ready and I listened. And then I patiently waited and allowed universe to send me all of the magic, all of the medicine. And it came in different ways. It came in a video that popped up in my feed. It came in a book that someone recommended. It came in a person that gave me a call. All of these things. And the next thing you know, I have this amazing program that within 8 months, I healed myself completely. Years later, and during that time, healers came to me as well, right? But I didn't know what was going on. I just trusted. That I have to see this person. Oh, this person. Okay, there's this thing. Okay, great. And I just did it. I was loyal to the path. And years later, when I became spiritual, and the awakening happened, I sat there in awe, like, oh my God, I did a full-on mind, body, spirit healing. And I had no idea that that's what was happening. And all of these things came to me in this beautiful, magical way through universe. And then here I am 8 months later, healed of anxiety, not taking any medication, after have been in and out of the hospital multiple times for years. And so when I'm able to look back, how did I do that? Okay, how do I do that again and again and again in everything? And then trust the healers that are coming to me, trust the words that are coming to me, trust whatever magic and medicine is coming to me. Because why? Because I asked. I put it out into the universe. Universe, I'm ready. From the core of my heart and my soul and my spirit, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to heal. Show me the way.
And then receive. And then
receive.
Just be patient, sit back and receive. And what you described, this word came to mind. And then I had this little insight, because I love just kind of taking things apart and looking at like, what does that really mean? We hear this word all the time, but what's that really about? The word that I heard while you were describing this time in your life that was sort of chaotic sounding in a way, like you were just like, all these things were coming at you and you were sorting through all this. The word that came through was bewilderment. Bewildered. Like there's this time when like, we don't really understand how all this stuff fits together yet. We don't really know what we're doing. It's like, kind of like, I don't really know. I'm just kind of continue to keep on the receiving end of all of this new, fascinating information, but I don't know what it means. I don't see the bigger picture yet. We're in this state of bewilderment. And like, what's that word? Be wilder. Bewildered. Be wilder.
Yeah.
We're letting the world come in. We're letting nature take its course.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so beautiful and powerful. And, a lot of I do lives every Monday, and I bring everyone through the 4 queens in the tarot, the Empress, and the 4 queens, the High Priestess, and then ultimately the Empress. And so I teach how to embody their energy, how to embody both the light and the dark side of them, how to embody it and how to integrate it into your life, to then ultimately get to Empress energy, which Empress energy is the all-knowing goddess, the God self, right? Becoming the Empress means just knowing. You're just in a knowing, you're in a flowing state. You're allowing nature to just help you and guide you. And so I see it as, it isn't linear. You don't just get to that place and that, no, it's back and forth. Like years ago, I was in my goddess state when I was allowing universe and nature to take its course to guide me through healing with anxiety. And then maybe I'll get out of that because ego pulls me out of that. And then I'll get back into it. So it's this back and forth. I want women to know that healing, or us healers, we're just at a different place in certain things, but we're just human too. We go back and forth in our healing as well. We're not perfect. You know, we can empower you and inspire you in our story and what we know, what we've learned, what our skills are. But there are things that we're still getting pulled out of into ego also constantly. And so this goddess state is that place where the now, oh, I'm awakened now. I'm a co-creator. I am a conscious creator of my reality. I can consciously create this healing here. I can consciously create this business here. I can consciously create this relationship here from this goddess state. And from this goddess state, then you allow the universe to kind of guide it, because our job is to know what we want, right? Ask for what it is, set the intention, and then universe's job is to put all the pieces together. Bring and you magnetize all of the answers, the direction, the path, the people, the healers, the this, the that. Universe's job does that. We can't do that. We can only be inspired, right? Take inspired action, but not actually put all the pieces together.
It would be way too much work. It's
too
kind
much.
of impossible. Way too much. The world is so big, and there's so many people out there that you haven't even met yet that probably are waiting to meet you, and vice versa. And how would you even know? How would you even know what to do? You know what I mean?
Which is what we do, which is why we're exhausted and we're overwhelmed, because we think we have to do it all ourselves. And you have to grind and grind and grind. And then the next thing you know, your brain can't take it anymore. You are sick. You're not well. You're fighting in your relationship. Why? Because you take it all upon yourself. And that's not what we're supposed to do. The goddess does not take it all upon herself. She knows when to lean back and surrender and allow and trust the universe and nature to guide her to the next thing and then the next thing.
Oh, this is so perfect a time to segue into like some of the practical stuff, because you're kind of describing it here, but I'd love to get more into kind of like the, give us some real life examples. Let's take a relationship, for example, like in a relationship, when you have like a partnership, and let's just say it's a partnership between a man and a woman, although I'm sure it could work for same-sex partnerships too, right? But in this, just real black and white or whatever, real simple, right? You're in a relationship and you're a highly masculinized woman. And I can totally relate to that too, being like really strong-willed, kind of says what gives direction, says what I mean, all that kind of stuff, right? And that's your energy that you're leading with. And then you have a partner who's also in their masculine, but maybe not in that way that's going to draw out your feminine, right? And you can maybe make some distinctions about that too. But let's take that, and you guys are butting heads.
Yes.
What would change in me as the woman to start shifting the balance of these energies in the relationship?
Yes. So when you're butting heads because you don't trust the other person, right? You don't trust them or them to handle the situation the right way. So you start to put protective layers over you. You start to put the walls up. And so you're butting heads because, well, if I don't say what I have to say right now, then he's going to, or she is going to go in this completely different direction. And I really need him or her to do this right here, right now, the way that I want it done. So the first thing is you're not having the awareness or the trust that this person can lead you in a good way. So we put the layers up. The second part of that is not trusting yourself. Not trusting that you can lean back and just listen and surrender and trust yourself, that everything will just line up the way that it needs to. From that place of self-love and leaning back and surrendering, then you're not reacting. Reaction is the problem. When we react, Why are we reacting? Because our emotions are on fire. We don't trust. We're angry. We don't have faith that it's going to line up the way that it does. We want it done now, the way we want it done, not the way they do it. And so I think trust and faith in both people, yourself and the other, is number one. Then you're in a conscious state of surrender. I'm going to take my time here. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be present in my own body. How is this making me feel? Am I agitated? Am I at peace? Maybe I should walk away right now. Maybe I should say something like, I'm hearing what you're saying. I hear you. I don't quite understand what it is that you're trying to convey to me, but I think I need to just take some time to walk away. And then we can come back to this. When you do that, when you surrender and pull yourself away, then you give yourself the time to just not react from your emotions. The goddess doesn't react, she responds. Very different from reaction or respond. Responding is, I hear what you're saying, or how can we not be fighting over the same thing, but be on the same team? So the way I see it is, it's just trust and faith. That's number one.
Wow. Yes, I could totally relate to that in terms of feeling that sense of, trusting myself to be okay when I'm not taking action, right? Because sometimes there's this anxious taking of action, whether that's in a reaction in what the words that I'm saying, or, the way that I'm doing something, right? In
Right.
continuing to take action, even though it's obviously not working. This conversation maybe with my spouse is obviously not going anywhere helpful. We're running around in circles and we're starting to get into like the blame game and all of that stuff. And so, but I'm continuing to go. What?
They're not going to hear you, because
right.
the masculine energy wants to please the feminine. They want to be respected and they want to please and they want to do things right. And so when the feminine is attacking or aggressively moving forward in that energy, fix it, do this, then they have nowhere to go. They don't know what to do. Whereas if you're just responding in a way that you're expressing your feelings, like, this is how this is making me feel. I feel this way, both ways, not only when it's a negative thing, but also a positive thing. I love when you do this. It makes me feel this. It makes me feel so protected. It makes me feel so desired and loved when you do this. And the masculine's like, oh shit, like, I love to please her. That's why I'm here. I'm here to please. And so the second that the feminine energy destroys that and breaks it down and makes him feel that he's not worthy, then he's going to get in his reaction mode as well. So that, now what do you have? You ain't going to get anywhere.
I know. And, just as you were speaking, I had this kind of thought or idea, and I know this may be true in some situations and not in others. I don't know, but like, maybe you can tell me what you think of this.
Yeah.
The way that some men, and this is like, I think a stereotype that gets a bad rep, when men are like prideful, cocky, mansplaining, all this stuff. I started to see like kind of like what might be going on underneath the surface is that they want your respect. They want you to respect them. They want you to admire them. They want you to love them. That's what that defensiveness truly may be pointing to, is that they want the feminine, they want the women to look up to them, to be proud of them. There's almost kind of like a little boyness inside of saying like, mama, I want you to see me do this cool thing. And it doesn't have to be something that we see them doing that and we go like, what a fucking asshole, what a dick. Like, we could be like, oh, I see what's happening here. You want my praise. You want my respect. You really, really need my love.
They're little boys too. At the end of the day, we're all just a bunch of little kids, we're a bunch of little girls and they're a bunch of little boys. And it's not about like boosting their ego. It's about respecting their masculinity, about respecting them as a human, about just respect and just honor. And then expressing that. That's the gift of the goddess. That is the power of the goddess, is being able to express that, because masculine energy doesn't know how as well as we do, right? The feminine energy, not we, because again, this isn't about gender, it's about energy. So we're able to express ourselves and to remind them of how grateful we are. How great, thank you for doing this, and inspiring them to action and not forcing them to action. Because once you start to force and command, they're losing, they feel like they're not valid anymore. They're not desired anymore. They're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. You know, did I lose her respect? All I want to do as the masculine energy is be this foundation, is protect her and take care of her and fix things for her. Remember, masculine energy is the doer energy. So I want to fix, I want to figure out, I want to strategize, I want to handle those things. The feminine energy is the receiver. She is more of just the being part, the feeling part, the emotion part. Okay, so those are what our powers are. How do I then take that, and how do I say things to you so that you can hear me and be inspired to want to do those things and not be your mommy?
Right. Yeah. This is so incredible and really apt. You know, my husband and I had our 5th year wedding anniversary yesterday, and it was kind of a funny day because I feel like we revisited all of these different points in our relationship. Like there was this, you know, a few conversations that felt like some kind of regression into like who we were 3 years ago or something. And it's just interesting how I think, you know, and a lot of people have this experience, like days have like, you know, there's 365-ish days in a year. And each of these days, like we come around to this same day, this anniversary, this time. And I think our bodies know, right?
Yeah.
Our bodies know, even if our conscious mind isn't fully aware of like, oh, this is the anniversary of this thing that happened in my life, this, you know, catastrophe, this celebration, and our bodies are responding to that like season, right? So my husband and I went through this gamut yesterday of all this stuff, and it was really interesting because I think at the end of the day we arrived back at like the deep friendship and connection that we
beautiful.
Beyond the sexuality, you know, beyond all of the other stuff. It was like this soul connection, this deep friendship. That's the foundation of our relationship. But we had to kind of go through the mud for a little bit first. And I ended up laughing about it later. I'm like, how perfect that we like, you know, did what we used to do like a couple of years ago, or did what we did the first year of our relationship, where we like drink a little too much caffeine, eat a little too much sugar, and get into a big noisy argument. You know? And there was a lot of pushing that was coming from me. And as I'm talking to you right now, I can see very clearly how I was creating that. And I can also hear him. I can hear him yesterday telling me that it was about the way that I was communicating more than what was being communicated. It was the way.
The way. It's the way. It's always the way. Because if you're aggressively, you know, you need to do this, you never do this, then you're mommying them, and then they feel like they're little boys and they can't please you, then that's it. If they lose your respect, then they're going to pull away. They're going to go in another direction. They're not going to feel like that man anymore, because that's all they want. That's all they want. And so it's our job to know how to convey that message and inspire them into action. And when you're trying to get something from them, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier. That's because you're not giving to yourself. It's because you're not filling yourself up. You're not in alignment with your goddess self. Where are you right now? Have you been exercising? Have you been loving yourself? Have you been tender with yourself? Do you have things that you can go to and use your tools that will fill you back up, so you're not needing that other person in your relationship to do it for you constantly, right? Are you depleting yourself, and then now you're mad at them because they can't fill you up the way that you can, and then now you're triggered by everything, and then see, it's just like this cycle. So first you.
Totally. And you know, as you're saying this, I have mad respect for my husband, because the thing that I was fighting with him about yesterday, which is so funny, like when you think about it, like what was really the argument starter, like at the beginning of the day, is that he's very good at putting himself first in these small ways and taking care of himself. You know, not in every single way, but in the way, for example, of when he's tired, he takes a little bit of a liberty and he sleeps in. And this is a thing that he does. Yeah. When I wake up and there's things to do and my kid is like, you know, I get up with the kid, I just do it. Even if I'm really tired, I just wake up and I do it, you know, and I will do all of the things sometimes for my kid and for my, you know, for my husband before I set time aside for my self-care.
Then
and
resent.
he doesn't do that. He just takes care of himself. And I get envious. I get jealous.
Yeah, then you get resentful.
I get resentful because I'm not doing that. It's like, okay. And when I'm thinking about what you're saying today and kind of getting this, you know, and in some ways I feel like I'm getting this like really juicy little coaching session from you right now inadvertently.
I love it.
Like, okay, how did I not show up for myself yesterday and then put that on him?
Number one, how did I not show up for myself and then put it on him? And number two, how did I forget that he's also this human being that has needs and that has his way to fill his own cup? How did I forget that? Okay, let me work on those things, those two things first. And then from that place of alignment and self-love and goddess energy, from that place of inspiration, I will then speak on this subject.
Yes. You know, as you're talking about all this too, I'm thinking about the cycles of night and day. And I'm thinking about daytime being that yang, masculine energy of like, I wake up in the morning and I feel like my masculine energy is like so on, like not every morning, but consistently. And I've been that way since I was a kid. I wake up and I'm just like ready to go. And that sometimes isn't actually like the best thing for me, you know, especially if I didn't really get enough sleep, you know, and I'm actually really physically tired, but I wake up and I just immediately have like all this like, boom, got to do stuff. Get the cat fed, get the kid fed, do the things, you know, my to-do list, you know, and at nighttime, I have a hard time sometimes turning that off. But at nighttime, my body's like really demanding that I turn that off. Usually even by the late afternoon, my body is like, okay, it's time to slow down.
Yes.
And my masculine energy doesn't want to, right? Kind of like I don't want the day to be over. I don't want to go to bed. I want to stay up and keep doing things.
Yep.
Right. I want to be up late and do stuff because it's like there's still day left somehow.
Okay. But nature will say, no, you need rest between these hours. And isn't it fascinating that nature itself knows that there's the masculine and the feminine, the daytime for the work and the nighttime for the rest, right? Same thing, masculine and feminine. So applying the masculine, feminine, or the yin and yang doesn't mean that you have to take nature walks and do meditation every day for 30 minutes, an hour a day. You can, if that works with your schedule, if that works for you, then absolutely. But everyone has a different way to go back into their feminine energy. Some people will worship. Like that's one of the things that I love to do. I love to put on music where it feels like worship. It could be a very high intentional, high vibration type of music where then I just sway and receive and cry and love. And that's one way. It could even be done in your car on the way to work, in the shower. It's about the intention and the being present and the allowing the emotion to flow through in and out. Some people like to journal. Okay, they can express themselves through journaling. So there's a thousand ways. Some people do yoga, or there's so many different tools to bring back that feminine energy and to be in that feminine energy and to be in alignment with goddess state. The goddess knows how to respond. She knows how to love herself. She knows how to nurture herself. She knows how to be in love with herself and pour into herself so that when things do come up, she's not taking that huge dip. And then once she's all the way down here, what it's going to take to come all the way back up. Right. Yeah. It's more of just a little dip. Oh, I'm back. Oh, okay. Little dip. Oh, I'm back. You're going to have the dips. It's
totally. And I feel like I've been getting better and better at that. I mean, the somatic work like that I teach and that I practice, it's what I practice. Like, and that's my biggest tool throughout my day is like doing some somatic movement, you know, takes me 15 minutes, 10 minutes or something like that. And that's a really great way to center myself back into my feminine energy because it's 15 or 10 minutes that I lay down and I just undo whatever stresses have kind of taken over my body temporarily, whatever experiences have like kind of tightened me up. I just release that. And, you know, it's really important. I'm starting to recognize because I like to do it in the morning, but doing it at night is also something that when I do that, when I'm doing it in the morning and at night, it's so wonderful for keeping things in balance, for like getting my nervous system to calm down after the busy day, after all of the stimulation, you know. And what I start to notice too, is that when I am tired, I don't process the world that well.
Right. Oh, no. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that, you may use your somatic movements, which is beautiful, getting you into your feminine energy. Another way to really get you in that sensual, sexual, feminine energy is moving your hips, right? Slowly moving your hands and your hips, turning the hips in a motion. This is very, very sexy and sensual, and it brings you to that place, which is another part of who we are. It's not just, I have a lot of clients that are like, oh, well, yeah, I work out. Well, okay, awesome. That's great. That's so healthy for your body. But what type of feminine movements are you doing? Are you moving like the ocean? Are you moving your hips? Are you moving your arms in a certain way? That is, again, if it's mind, body, spirit, if there's no disconnect between the three, if your mind is body, body is mind, then anything that you do for the body will then affect the mind and vice versa.
Yes.
Being in that, like for me, you know how I am, I joke a lot, but I always say booty shorts, tits out, right? Like I find a place, just me and the mirror and blasting music, the best music that I could find that just lights me the hell up. And it's booty shorts, tits out. And I just move my body and I love on myself and I feel the energy and I feel that sensual energy and I let it come out and I let it be. I let it be who I am. And it's so healing. It's so powerful. That's when I do the pole and seduction classes that I host once a month. That's what we're doing. It's not about swinging on a pole. It's about remembering the power that we have in those sensual movements and then being able to bring that back to whoever, your partner or you're just yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because there's so many different kinds of somatic work. And like I have obviously a system that I work with, but what you just described, the swaying of your body, this is a somatic movement.
Awesome.
You are doing it. You know what I mean? It's a different structure than the structure that I might work with. But even within the structure that I work with, we do those kind of flowing movements because you're absolutely right. This is bringing you back to your nature. This is blending that right and left side of your body. Just sway from side to side, to move your hips in a circle. That movement literally requires your right and left brain to communicate, to collaborate, to work together in a balanced way. So it's very much in line with what you are teaching, is what you're naturally doing. This is how you're becoming more connected and more integrated and more aware of your soma, of your body, your soma body. That's not just your body, it's your spirit, it's your life force energy. It's your thoughts, your beliefs. That's what soma is. Your soma is so much more than just your body. It's this holistic word for your body that includes your energy field, right? And includes the awareness that you're constantly interchangeably interacting with your environment, and that the environment that you're in is impacting you, and then you're impacting your environment. And that is as simple as what you just described, dancing with your, what did you say, booty shorts?
I say booty shorts, tits out.
There you go. Yeah. In your environment with your music, feeling into yourself. Like that is so fucking somatic. And I love that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And everybody listen.
The way that it translates. Yeah, exactly. And the way that it translates is like, I've been doing the pole. I don't host the pole classes. I gather the community and then host them. But there's a teacher that does the seduction classes. And so her and I discussed how to run the classes. And I told her it's very much about seduction and sensuality and movement and all of that, empowering and inspiring, rather than just like the pole movements or how to do the techniques. It's not so much about that. She's like, I got you, right? So like every month I host these classes, and I got shamed for it by a family member because I'm what was it that was said? I am promoting sexuality in women. Okay. And I thought, of course, it stung a little bit because I don't think that's what I'm doing, but it stung at first. But I didn't allow it to get me down. I said, no, that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is actually empowering and inspiring women to love their bodies and to love that sensual part of themselves again, because like me, that was taken away from me. Like me, I was shamed for that part of me, and that's not fair. That's part of our nature. And so 3 classes go by, it's been a few months, and I had a client that posted a picture of herself and looked phenomenal, but it wasn't just what she looked like. She had battled her weight her whole life. it was the way that she presented herself in this photo. And I commented and I said, girl, fire, you know? And she said, the classes are helping. And I thought, oh my gosh, yes, because now you're able to take these movements and this sensual part of yourself and bring it into your everyday life and just firing it up from the inside out. And so that's the healing. It's all healing. It's all part of the healing.
Yes, it is. That's beautiful. You know, maybe this is a great time for you to talk a little bit about Love's Gravity and some of the projects and the things that you're up to, the ways that people can start to interact a bit more with what you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm always up to no good, girlfriend. Just if there's trouble, I'll be right there. No, I'm kidding. Love's Gravity has really grown from doing little readings to then creating the Rising Goddess Transformational Experience, which you are with me for 2 hours. There's a meditation, there's beautiful scents and sounds, there's high vibrational music. It's essentially a coaching session as well as readings with tarot and oracle cards. They're used for inspiration, to inspire a conversation. It's not for fortune telling or anything like that. The way that it's built is around, again, you and inspiring you to be in your feminine power. And so that's where it started. And then it built from there with the Eat, Pray, Love retreats in Italy. I do those once a year, and they are self-love retreats. They're very much about la dolce vita, living your best life through delicious, beautiful farm to table foods and experiences. And we go to Capri and we go in the ocean. It's just a delicious experience. I also do Sage and Rise experiences for corporations, where I teach about the masculine and feminine energy through music and meditation and a small little workshop. So many things. Every month I host the Real Table Talk Dinner, where I invite men and women to come to my table. I pull a card for everyone. I cook a 4-course Italian homemade meal. We have espresso affogatos, we have limoncello toasts, we have a delicious pasta dish, Italian dessert, you name it. And then during the night, we pull questions out of a box and we discuss the questions. It could be anywhere from a spiritual experience to, if you had 6 months to live, what would you do? Relationship questions, sexual questions. There's just, everything's on the table at that point. And then the pole classes once a month as well.
That's so incredible. That's
yeah,
a lot.
I've scaled. It's a lot, but I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so in alignment with everything. I'm inspired daily, and that's how I know that I'm on the right path.
Yes. Well, and also you do this Monday reading, right?
Yes, that's called the Fierce Feminine and the 4 Queens in the tarot. And I essentially will pull all the 4 queens, the Empress and the High Priestess, and I'll pick one. So whoever comes out, she is the inspiration for the reading. She's the overall energy for the reading. And then I also pull cards on just where are you? Where are you in your feminine journey? Where are you in your, essentially your fierce feminine energy? Are you setting boundaries? Are you flowing in the feminine energy? Where are you at? And so I do that every Monday. I'm also making t-shirts, which are all the queens in the tarot. They should be ready this week. So I'm really excited about that, because I'll have some merch coming out as well. But ultimately, this is lining myself up for the workbook, which is really a life book. It's going to be over 100 pages of going through each queen and integrating their archetype into your life. And then ultimately the second book will be the goddess energy. So implementing the feminine goddess energy in your relationship, in your life, becoming a master magnetizer, becoming the co-creator of your reality. And so it'll be a 2-part book.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. When do you expect that to be available?
We're working on it every week. We're about halfway at this point. I have a lot of the content. It's going to be a beautiful art book as well. It'll have 6 of the images of the deck that I'm creating as well. So it'll be the first 6, which are the queens. And so I'm thinking end of summer, I'm hoping.
Awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yay.
This has been such a super fun conversation. I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy you bring such playfulness into the way that you express yourself. You have a lot of fun with it. And I think that we can get really serious sometimes on our, on our healing journey. We can get really serious. And that's what's so nourishing and so great about interacting with you, is that you bring a lot of playfulness back into it. You bring a lot of joy into what can sometimes be, a confrontational, somewhat intense process.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That is what I do. I can't help it. It's just part of the rebel inside me, and the fun part of me. I've always been this person. And thank you for saying that, because it reminds me that I am in alignment and I am being authentically me, unapologetically authentically me. And that's important to me. And so even if that means, however that looks on the outside, it is what it is. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'm going to have fun with it, because life is too short. We got one shot at this.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Well, this has been such a beautiful conversation. I'm so looking forward to collaborating with you in the future, getting a little bit deeper. I'm totally down to do, I think we talked about like a trade of some kind. I want to do that love activation experience.
I would love that.
Share with people what I experienced, what I got out of it. I would love to collaborate in those ways. And just say, it'll be in the show notes, but go ahead and say, where's the best place for people to contact you?
Yeah, my website, lovesgravity.com, has all the information on there, or my Instagram account, which is lovesgravity_.
Gotcha. Great. Yes. And check out, everybody, those Monday night readings that we were alluding to. Because that's a great
at 7:00 every Monday night on IG.
And that's a way to kind of get into the zone with you and feel into the way that you express and share this information. Although everybody got a great taste of that today on the show.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, totally. Yes. It was such a pleasure. And I can't wait to have you on the podcast again and catch up and see how these new projects are developing and what's going on. We'll check in again in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Free Your Soma podcast. Subscribe now to hear more stories of somatic awakening and gain knowledge and tools for somatic living. If you'd like to learn more about me, Amy Takaya, Hannah Somatic Education, or the Radiance Program, please visit www.freeyoursoma.com.